In this episode, I want to talk to you about something that I think is very important, but a lot of people sometimes miss out on, and that is lane timings. And what I mean by that is, for example, the 5-minute catapult and 5-minute bounty runes. At 5 minutes, the daytime, or depending on which 5 minutes, it changes from daytime into nighttime, and then at 10 again back to daytime from nighttime. A lot of people don't really think about these timings until it's a little bit too late, or they see the clock and they go like, oh, it's 5 minutes, let's pick up a bounty rune, or there's a catapult spawning. But I think it's good to be prepared for these moments, because some of the moves that you might want to make, if you want to push a tower or if you want to bait a fight around the bounty rune, you need to be prepared for, and you need to tell your teammate to be ready for as well. So I'm going to show you a replay between us and Team Enigma, which unfortunately we're on the losing end of this. Mind Control is playing Nature's Prophet, which I think he's probably the best player in the world on this hero. And very early into the game, they decide to go push our middle tower. So as you can see right now, the game is kind of even. They have a slight lead, but it's not like anything crazy has happened. However, the heroes we have are like a little bit, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily slow, but it's a little bit hard for us to defend towers. Phoenix is really the only hero that can do it, and he's level 3 at this point. So at 5 minutes, we fight a little bit around bounty runes. Standard timings, we get a kill, because we know he wants to go for a bounty rune, so we like run over and we set up for it. But another thing that's more important in this game is that the mid-wave catapult is spawning. And because of the nature of their heroes, with Venge, Nature's Prophet and Elder Titan, they're pretty strong at fighting very, very early into the game. When it's not really like a team fight, it's just like a bunch of heroes running together, I guess, how to say it. So at sort of 6 minutes, you don't always need to be at a tower at precisely 5 minutes, but you need to respect that that's when the catapult spawn, and it takes them some time to get to the lanes. You should always be like watching the lanes, seeing like, oh, we have a catapult, it's a little bit damaged, but it's staying alive. Or like, oh, our catapult is now hitting the tower, like maybe we can do something with this. Sometimes a catapult, you can even make it stay alive for a few minutes on your lane. If you decide, like, I need more levels before we push, that's also something you can do. So you see in this game, even 6 minutes into the game, they TP in, they kill our mid laner with the Nature's Prophet, because he knows he wants to push this tower. So they will do this move even if they're not getting a kill. They're just going to TP in because they want to push the tower. And they start forcing us as well to TP over. So you see Phoenix TPs in to respond. His spell is unfortunately on cooldown, but at least he tries. Oracle runs over, he gets zoned off by the Elder Titan. Like all of a sudden, these lanes are like 1v1. My lane in this scenario is 1v0, but it can be a useful thing to think about if you want to break up the laning phase as well, because it forces other teams' rotations. So they get a free mid tower at 6 minutes. This opens up a lot of map control. Entrance to our jungle, entrance to our triangle area. Easier for them to run around and ward without getting spotted. They can smoke in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of reasons why towers are important, right? And then again, at 10 minutes in this game, now they have a even bigger lead, which they're getting from having this mid tower pressuring us more on the map. You can see they have a catapult top. And at the same time as at 5 minutes, you'll see the Nature's Prophet, which is the minion hero or the offlane hero in this scenario, TPing in, and you start pushing the tower. And because we're already behind, we decide that we don't really want to fight the tower, and we make our own move. But unfortunately, we don't have a catapult, and our heroes also push a little bit slower. So it's way faster for the enemy to take our tower before we take their tower. So in this scenario, they could choose to defend, they could choose to keep pushing, they could choose to like gank. Usually what happens in a scenario like this is after you take this top tier 1 tower, the mid tower is still alive. So the natural transition for an offlane player is you push out here, you farm a little bit, and if you want to fight more, you just walk mid. But our mid tower is already dead, so they're just going to farm it out and keep pressuring a little bit top. Because of that, it's also important to be the first team that gets the tower, because then you're the first team that can, I guess, do new moves or to pressure the other towers in the enemy team. You can see they're even diving like very, well, this wasn't a great dive, but they're putting a lot of pressure on us, which lets their Dusa, who is like the hero we want to shut down, is farm on the other side of the map and they get huge. If you look at net worth, he's so far behind, so far ahead of everyone else, there's like no way for us to stop him. The importance of understanding these different timings for catapults and bounties is that they are enablers for you to either find team fights or find small skirmishes around the bounty rune. It's a way for you to push towers. Either you're already on a hero that can push towers naturally, like Beastmaster, Nature's Prophet, Enigma. These are like common offlane heroes that really like to take towers. Because what happens when you take a tower as well is that, let's say I take this tower and I'm Beastmaster, that means that I can farm all of this area. And if they come to pressure me, I can go back and farm all of this area. But if they already have a tower here, I'm usually confined to farming less space, which my carry might like force me out of, and I'm very sad. So all this like Enigma Beastmaster, it's very important to push the towers in order to get more space for yourself as well. When you want to look out for these timings, I would say, especially if you think you're stronger than enemy or they can't defend, you want to start trying to push as early as possible. If it's very easy for the enemy to defend their towers, maybe they have a Kunkka or a Sand King, maybe they have like a Arcane Rune Storm Spirit, it's very dangerous for you to walk up there. Instead of like making the move early, it's probably better to just play it safer. But it's a good way to force the enemy to respond to you. Maybe the enemy team is a lot stronger than you and they start pushing your tower, then it's like a good way to start pushing their tower before they can push your tower in order to buy yourself more time as well. To understand like when and where to push, it comes of course with a lot of experience, but as a general rule of thumb, I would say that you always want to try and pressure. You always want to do a little bit of damage and see how the enemy responds. Maybe sometimes they make the wrong call and they don't defend the tower even though they would have won the fight, or maybe sometimes they go and defend the tower but you manage to back off in time, and that's always a win. And it's usually better than just like letting the catapult die and farming the jungle, even if you're winning or losing the lane. Here I'm going to show you guys another example where I don't push that early into the game, but instead I like use my timing and when I'm strong to make sure that the fights we do take are going to be successful. First of all, I'll explain the concept of why catapults are important and when it's maybe not the most important thing to consider. In this lane we're playing Beastmaster against Orc and a Spectre, so my hero is really strong because it's very hard for them to kill my minions. And unfortunately they killed the catapult because my tiny went mid and died, and you know, sometimes stuff like that happens. Due to the fact that I'm Beastmaster, however, or if I was Nature's Prophet or Enigma, when we're winning the lane this hard, it's still possible for me to push the tower because I have minions that can, well, do a lot of tower damage. But if I was another hero like Centaur or Sand King or Mars, for example, these heroes have a lot harder time to push the tower, so it's more important to value the catapult if you're on a hero that already struggles to push towers. Because I'm Beastmaster or Nature's Prophet, it can be easier for me to take towers early into the game or to fight around towers that I normally wouldn't be able to get. But it's not so important for me to focus on the catapult, especially if I'm already winning my lane. So here I'll show you at 9 minutes, it's nighttime and I have Roar. And we have no catapult mid, and I'm just kind of poking around. It's a very good transition whenever you're playing offlane, that you take this tower and then you look to see if there's any place you can do in this area, because it's so easy for you to just run over. Usually, at least in high MMR, a support has placed a ward here or here because they expect you to push this tower and they know you're going to do this rotation, so it can be a good idea to bring a smoke. However, in this game I didn't feel like it was something that we super needed to do, so I kind of just poked and prodded, and it worked out because it didn't have any vision. Like, even if he saw me running over, I don't feel like I'm like in danger here because I think we're so much stronger than them, so I just decided to go for it anyway. At 10 minutes it's going to spawn a catapult that's going to walk down mid. And I know this, and my Roar is on an 80-second cooldown, so I'm gonna decide that I'm just gonna chill, I'm gonna farm. We're gonna pressure, of course, a little bit. But I think we're gonna back off here. You can see that I decide once they start defending and they start tipping in, we get one more kill on Shaker, but that shouldn't really happen. Then we back off and we relax. And now it's daytime, and when it's daytime, that means that the enemy has more visibility. So if somebody is standing here and farming, they can see all the way to our tower, they can see all the way down here, they usually feel a lot safer. And I think this is the best time to use smoke moves, because when people feel safer, it's going to be easier for you to catch them out of smoke. Whereas in nighttime, maybe I could walk up all the way here without him seeing me, so instead of him walking up and hitting these creeps, he's going to like sit over here and play a little bit defensive. Because this catapult is here at 10:20, I know what I want to do right now is I want to wait for my Roar cooldown, my Necros, tell my team I'm going to smoke mid, let's kill whoever sits here from my smoke, and let's get the tower. It's going to be a very good way for us to open up more map and be able to play aggressive, so this tower is usually the most important one in the game. I think in this scenario, our catapult might even die before I get there, but once again, because I'm Beastmaster, it doesn't really matter to me too much. It's more about like the fact that the enemy team has to be there to defend against the catapult, so I know that we need to bring numbers. Even if they manage to kill the catapult, that doesn't mean that we still can't do the move. Yeah, I think our Tiny gets killed, our catapult dies. I even use smoke myself. Usually you would want to bring your mid hero or your position 5. These are the two heroes that rotate the most in the early game. Your carry is most of the time gonna be like an anti-mage that sits down here and farms. and your position 4 in some games is going to help you out, but in some games he's going to be a little bit under-leveled. It depends a little bit on who takes the tome and stuff, so you got to think to yourself like, which heroes do I want to fight with, who's like strong on my team, and who wants to farm, and you try and involve the heroes that wants to fight. The worst thing you can do is to like start arguing with your teammates and trying to force them to do a move they don't want to do. I smoke myself. I don't really care too much about my team because I'm so strong. I drop a ward in the jungle. I think this is a very important thing to think about as well. As an offlane player, people tend to not buy wards, but I think that in general, every time you do a smoke, it's really, really good to put a ward down because you're basically invisible, so they have no idea. Maybe they know that I had a ward on me, but they have no idea if I put it like down here, if I put it here, if I'm gonna put it really close to mid. It's extremely hard to like counter these kind of wards. And another good thing to think about is, I know because we've taken this tower, probably their carry is not going to farm over here, but he's going to farm like in this area. So you try and ward like where the enemy is going to be or where they're going to run to you, so that your team will feel safe here and you can like kill them here. If I put a ward over here instead, it would have been way too defensive because we want to farm down here and we don't just want to defend our triangle. I'll show you here. I come from behind. The enemy has absolutely no idea that I'm here. In their mind, I could be chilling, I could be chilling. Most people expect people to be chilling in Dota, so it's like I think it's good to do the aggressive move. It's a little bit unexpected. I come from behind, bam, roar from fog. He can't even react with global. This guy dies because I'm so strong. I'm level 9 now. I have necros. This guy dies. The puck deep is in. You know, the 2 of their heroes are already dead. There's no way for them to defend this tower because they're taken by surprise. This guy walks in and nukes my necro, so I guess he also dies. Very unfortunate. And we don't end up getting the tower right away in this scenario, but we end up like getting a big lead and we're forcing them to basically use all of their resources to try and defend, and we're pulling extremely far ahead. To summarize how to use your timings, it's important to understand why you're doing it and when it's good or bad. In general, always good to push a tower, always good to take a tower. In general, always bad to die and lose a team fight. There's like a fine balance of don't push a tower, you're gonna die if you push, but do try and push a tower every time. The most important thing to think about, I think, is you should bring numbers. You should call your team over. You should make sure that if you're pushing that it's like a safe thing to do. If you think that you're gonna win the fight, if you bring 4 or 5 people, it doesn't matter, just do it. If the enemy doesn't fight, you lose like 30 seconds of farm, everybody's happy. Maybe your teammates don't listen to you, maybe they don't want to come push your lane. Maybe you can go instead to the mid lane or to another lane and go there and push the tower. If people, they think you're going to lose the fight and they don't want to connect with you, sometimes it's also better to just push alone and like poke a little bit and then quickly back off before the enemy arrives, especially if you think you're going to lose the fight like very hard. Don't like call your team over and just die. Everyone is going to be very upset.